and justice for all. Thank you all. All right, so this is a continuation of public hearing for open space residential development at 77 Hersey Lane, tax map R4, the lot 3 zone, tax map R4, lot 3. I'll start by taking attendance. Val Shelton,
Present, no one in the room.
Jane Ford,
Present and alone.
Jamie Bruton,
Absent.
not present. Sarah Finch,
Absent.
William Doucette,
Absent.
Scott Blackstone,
Here and alone.
Mikhail Zahorik,
Here and on my own.
Ted Seeley.
Present and alone.
Okay, so Mikhail, I'll appoint you to sit in for Jamie, and Ted, you will sit in for Sarah this evening. All right, everybody, welcome to the meeting. I'm glad we could get this done before the holiday. So I believe that everybody has a package from Diane, the town planner. So Diane, will you just update us? I believe basically we had a couple of outstanding issues at the last meeting. And the board had not had a really chance to review the latest plans and correspondence and whatnot. So
Yes.
would you give us a quick update on where we are now?
Yeah, certainly, I'd be happy to. If you recall, we got a letter earlier that afternoon on the December 8th from Robert Saunders, who's our review engineer with Underwood Engineers. And he had gone through all of the revised plans that submitted to the town hall on December 3rd. And most of the issues he felt had been addressed or had been resolved. There were a couple of questions he had. One concerned the easement plan, which was items 4 and 5 on his list. And he felt that there was a need for some modifications to that plan so it would be a little more clear, it would be less complicated and easier to view. And there was a second concern that had been raised about the transition between the Class 6 road, Hersey Lane, the upgraded portion of Hersey Lane that will be upgraded to a Class 5 status, and then, of course, the new subdivision road. And the applicant submitted some revised profiles to us shortly after that meeting. It was on the 10th of December. And Robert has reviewed those and he has signed off on that item. So the only thing that is sort of out there at this point is the easement plan. And I did have some discussions with Christian Smith and we reviewed what the town's expectations were. And it's my understanding that he's working with his surveyor to address that. And I've sort of pointed out a model that we from the Rockingham Green. Paul Kerrigan is here. He's familiar with that. That was a very well done document. So I suggested to Christian that perhaps that could be used for a model going forward. And so I'm recommending as one of our conditions this evening that that document be updated and will be reviewed administratively by the planner and also by our town legal counsel, who'll be reviewing all the legal docs anyway for the project. And that would be one of the conditions to resolve that. So I think, having said that and getting feedback on those items, we were really in a good position to recommend a conditional approval this evening. And I did send out to all the board members and to the project team from Chimberg's group. We sent out a copy of all those comments before the meeting to give everybody a chance to review them. Basically, at this point, we're recommending an approval with consideration. There's actually quite a few here, kind of a few loose ends that needed to be addressed, but we have 15 conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have concerning those. I don't know if we need to go through each and every one of them. Most of them are standard conditions that we have of this nature. There are a couple of outstanding items, such as the land stewardship plan. which was one of the conditions on the conditional use permit the special use permit, which really is sort of a plan outlining how the land is going to be protected. Is it going to be protected as common land? And what are the long-term maintenance plans for that open space to assure that the criteria for the special use permit will be respected. And so I guess with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have at this point. And if you think it would be helpful for me to go through them, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to do so.
Not at this point. I'd rather at this point open it up to the board. Does any board members have any questions relative to the plan set or the final set of comments or any of the details relative to the project? Val, I see your hand up.
Yes, my only comment, so Diane, did a great job on putting together the findings of facts and conditions, recommendations. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
On findings of fact, this is just a question for the board. Do we need to know the position that the board actually took on request to deny? That's under item 5, finding of facts. And then on the Diane's recommendations on conditions of approval, number 2, do we want Public Works Director to have approval over the drainage structures? And under number 15, should we have a specific, that's for delineation of the markers for the no cut, no disturbance? Do we want to add within, X number of feet between them? And then the other item here would be, we as the board, how do we want to set thresholds on active and substantial development and substantial completion? So those are my, I think, 4 items.
Yep, those are all good points, Val. Let's come back to those in a minute. Does anybody have any questions other than that relative to the plans or the comments? Okay, I don't hear any, see any. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? There's nobody at the town hall from what I understand.
There isn't anyone at the town hall. I think member of the public, or perhaps he is an abutter. I'm not sure. Mr. Greeley, who is the chairman of the Hersey Green Homeowners Association, I think he's here as a member of the public, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I am. Sorry. I thought you asked for people who were in the building. I'm not in the building. I'm at home. But
Okay.
yeah, I just was interested. I saw this and said, "Oh, is this ours or whatever?" But
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I may fall asleep. Thank you, though.
It's just thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody? I see Christian Smith and Paul on the line and Alex and whatnot. Is there anything that you would like to say to add to the record before I close the public hearing?
Not much, Mr. Chairman, but I will just add, I've got a copy of the revised profile sheet. If any of you haven't seen it, I can share screen that and show you the very minor detail that we added to it based on the comment from UEI's last memo. And I did get finalized draft easement plan and easement documents via email from both Doucette Survey and Ann Crotty, who is Chinberg's attorney, and forwarded those off to Diane today, understanding there was no way anybody was going to have time to. Just to let you know that we haven't been dragging our feet on this. We actually have been moving forward as quickly as we possibly can, trying to get those prepared, ready for review.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Anything anybody else would like to add?
Yeah, Eric, I'll just add something real quick, and it involves the easements. I'm not sure if it was Jack from Doucette or maybe Ann Crotty that suggested maybe holding off on recording that easement document until we're a little further on, until at least the utilities are completed. It just makes a lot of sense rather than recording them now and having to amend something later. So I don't know if you folks are you know, it's just something to consider. It just made a lot of sense to me to record that later rather than record the easement plan right away.
Paul, I actually think that's a good idea. Wait till you know where the utilities are and make sure they are
Right.
within the easement, so you don't have to amend them later. I think that's a very good point.
And that was actually one of our engineers' review comments to me when we talked about the easement plan last week, and said you might want to hold off until, you know, after construction, because there might be some change orders and location based on site conditions, that kind of thing.
Okay, so at this point, unless I hear any objections, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, the public hearing is closed at 7:12. And then so I'd like to go into Val, into your comments.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in
Nope.
on that.
Nope, that's fine. The first note I have is under the recommendation and conditions of approval, the DPW director under item 2. Should the DPW director look at the easements and the utilities and stuff, correct?
Yeah, the drainage structures.
Right.
We could add a condition that you review them and approve them as well.
Yeah, because there'll be easement language and relative to the drainage structures.
That's right.
So should we add review and approval by the DPW director and by the town's legal counsel prior to signing and recording of the documents?
Yeah, I would just add the
Yes.
public, DPW director as one of the review items.
Yep. The other one, I guess, actually going backwards, Val, the finding of facts, on the item 5, the Lamprey River Advisory Committee. Your comment on that was that we have decided to move forward in spite of their request for AOT to not approve the project.
Yeah, their recommendation was from LRAC was right for DES
Yes.
to not approve
Right.
the AOT application.
Right.
You know, I mean, our position was that we didn't have a position on this.
Right.
I didn't know if we just, I mean, we're pulling it out as a finding of fact, but there's like there was, you know, reading it, what was the position of the board on this?
Yeah, no, good point. So yeah, all we have is approval of the alteration of terrain permit. It's stated below as a proposed condition of approval below. Do you have any suggested wording, Val?
I guess after that first sentence, I would maybe add a sentence, the board elected to take no position on this matter.
Yep. I think that's good. Val, I know you had a couple other comments. I'd like to interject a couple of comments I have. They're very minor, but on item 6, the recommendation conditions of approval, the developer shall make advance escrow payment to the town in an amount determined as acceptable by the town's engineering consultant for construction inspections. I don't think it should be up to the town's engineering consultant. It should be as acceptable by the town. You know, we should be making the decision. They obviously got to go back and forth on it, but I don't think it should be the town's engineering consultant that has final say on approving what that should be. I think that's our responsibility.
What we have done in the past, Eric, is we asked the applicant's engineer to put together a bid,
Yes.
not a bid, but a cost estimate.
Sure.
And then our engineer would review it. But usually that's an administrative matter that's done, it's a negotiated process at an administrative level, and usually the planning board hasn't gotten involved in those decisions.
Okay, but do we typically say the town's engineering consultant as being, the amount has to be acceptable to him or to them?
Well, I mean, they know what the going rates are,
Sure,
and
Yeah.
Sure.
they provide us with a proposal. This is what it's going to cost to do the inspection services for this
Yep.
project.
yeah, but
And
oftentimes, don't they go back and forth with the developer?
if there's disagreement, they might
yes,
negotiate
yes.
it, but it's done
Yeah.
administratively. We've never had the planning board involved in those discussions.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm not, and I'm not saying the planning board should be. I just think it should be administratively through your office or whatever, you know what I mean, as
Yeah.
far
Okay.
Yeah.
as having.
Eric, I agree with that because, it's really the town's decision, and Diane, you're just using, or whoever, is involved with this, you're just utilizing the town's engineer as your consultant,
Correct.
Right.
right?
Which is why they're
So
there.
really, I agree with Eric as far as the wording there.
But we'll change it to just the town.
Yes, yep. Thank you. On item 7, just one minor editorial. The second line, it says, upgrade a portion of class 4. That should be class 6 road.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought I corrected that.
That's just a
Thank you.
typo. No
Yeah,
biggie.
thank you.
Val, I know you had number 15 as, we state a distance, how far apart the markers should be.
Yeah, there should be some kind of standard. I don't know if it's 50 feet or like when TNC goes out and marks easements
Yep.
or.
Yep. I actually think in this instance, we should say 50 feet. Or, 50 feet or as deemed appropriate by the town again.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's pick a number. We just don't want to, again, I'm calling this out because we don't want to repeat what has been going on down at Rockingham Green.
Right.
So we really want to make it abundantly clear to a future property owner that these are no cut zones.
Right.
Does the applicant have a recommendation?
I would say between 50 and 75 feet. And, I don't want to belabor an old point, but I know I walked the Rockingham Green stuff myself, and those markers were really clear. So I'm not sure if it's the frequency or the number of markings or just people wanting to ignore them, because they were as clear as day when we put them up.
I.
So, we could put them every 50 to 75 feet, I guess would be the recommendation. I mean, when you put up no trespassing signs, I think it's 50 feet. So,
Yeah, so then why don't we stay consistent with 50 feet?
50 feet.
Sure.
Yep. And I'm fine with that. That makes perfect sense. And Val, I have to say, I apologize. I was trying to write notes as you were speaking. I think there was
Oh.
one other issue you had.
Well, it's really, obviously, there's the vesting for the 2-year and the 5-year for the applicant, but as the planning board, we should be defining those thresholds so that the applicant clearly understands what will be required in order to achieve their vesting rates.
Yes. Let me just ask the board members, does any other board members have any comments relative to the memo that Diane put out with the finding of facts and recommendations and conditions of approval? Okay, hearing none of that, that's good. Then, Val, I agree. We need to determine what the vesting rights should be. What are your thoughts on that, Val?
Well, I would think the 2-year vesting would be having the roads and infrastructure service in the development completed within that period, obviously, except for the final pavement coat. And then substantial completion, let's pick a number of units to be constructed because they won't do the final pavement coat typically till after the last house is built.
Correct. Yep.
Usually
We can
here.
tie that to a number of occupancy permits, whether it's 25 or 50% on the 5 years. I'd like to also hear from the applicant.
Sure. Any board members have any comments on that? Any thoughts? Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
2 years on the infrastructure and substantial completion is fine. I'm sorry, Val, what was your suggestion on the,
Yeah, pick a certain percentage of the units being completed
in that length of time?
in 5-year period.
Oh, in a 5-year period, they should all be done, I would think. Even if things slow down, there's only 11 units.
So let's just say that
that's-
that's completion.
I'd say
I
that's
mean, that
completion.
becomes a moot point, but at least we have the threshold.
Right.
Okay.
What's the estimated construction term? Do we know?
Who asked that, Ted?
Ted,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the,
On the
right.
project as a whole?
well, I think that's what we were talking about just now.
5 years.
Oh, okay. So there's not a project schedule currently that we're aware of?
We
We do not have a project schedule for infrastructure yet.
Oh, okay.
We typically have a pre-construction conference, and at that time, the town's engineer will ask the applicants to give us a schedule. And, we want to make sure that it's consistent with what the planning board had stated for vesting of the overall project.
But your goal, Paul, is to be out of there in 5 years.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments or suggested edits to any of the documents that we've seen or talking about tonight?
Eric, this is Jay. Just one quick question. Because we're talking about such a long period of time, are there no elements of a force majeure here, just so everyone's clear on that?
What would be the concern, Jane?
I don't know, whoever would have thought a year ago that we'd all be doing a meeting like this. Any concerns regarding the timeline and anything that would be a force majeure, things that are out of their control that they can't handle, or, I've done the best I can. And I'm just asking that, are there any elements of a force majeure?
Yeah, that's why I guess I was proposing a certain percentage for substantial completion. Again, this is just giving them vesting rights in case there's changes in zoning.
Okay, that's all. I didn't know if the percents were with the force majeure or without it. So I think what you're saying is it's it's percentages with no force majeure.
Yeah, but it really, that 5-year substantial completion, so I think to address your concern, if we say like 75%, complete,
That's
would
fine.
give them that vesting of the 5 years.
Okay, good. Thank you.
In Moody Point, that plan was approved back in '85, and it was, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Valerie, that the last house was built there. So
Where
it's taken many years to
Yeah,
the complete build out. And there was,
Okay.
economic hiccups, if you will, along the way, which slowed down the rate of build out.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to add? Okay, so procedurally, I'm okay with not reading every finding of fact and conditions of approval. Just as long, obviously it's part of the record. If you think that's appropriate, Val, are you okay with that?
yeah, I would just tie the motion to the date of the memo from the town planner with the modifications
Yep,
as
yep.
made by the board.
Yep. That
No.
actually sounded like a motion.
I was gonna say, I'll set that forth as a motion on the approval of the applicant's plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was Jane.
Yes.
Excellent. Any discussion? Okay, I will do a roll call vote. We'll start with Scott Blackstone,
Aye.
Ted Seeley,
Aye.
Mikhail Zahorik,
Aye.
Jane Ford,
Aye.
Val Shelton,
Aye.
and Eric Bodeman. I vote aye. The motion passes 6-0, unanimously passes. Thank you very much. Good luck, Paul.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Paul, thank you.
Happy holidays to you all and be safe.
Thank you
Yes,
too. You
same.
too, Chris,
Well,
as well. Diane, that was the only thing on our agenda, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the letter that you probably didn't get it at this point. I sent it out right before the meeting. But if there's something that is other business that I'd like to discuss. At our
Okay.
last meeting, we took a motion and there was a vote to forward a recommendation to the town council concerning the rescinding of water and sewer impact fees and replacing them with system development charges. And I have drafted a letter. In my discussions with John Radigan following the meeting, we discovered that there were some references in the zoning ordinance to water and sewer impact fees. So we do have to make a couple of minor modifications to that ordinance. And that needs to, be heard by the planning board and a recommendation forwarded on that subject to the town council. So I have drafted the letter and it's ready to go. And we'll take it up after the first of the year, I guess, or after the holiday with the town council.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? I would like to say thank you to the board for a couple of things. One is for, another year's gone by. This has been a tough year. Wasn't a big fan of doing Zoom meetings when we first started, but I think they've worked very well. I think everybody's figured out how to manage this. So I appreciate all the input and all the support from all the members. And likewise for tonight's meeting, I appreciate everybody being able to meet tonight, short notice right before the holidays. I'm trying to keep this project moving. They've got a lot of work to do before they get their final sign-offs and everything. So I'm very happy that we were able to meet tonight and keep this project moving. If nobody has anything else to add, I will entertain them. Oh, go ahead, Diane.
We had a public hearing with the town council last week on the 16th of December on the proposed zoning amendments for the flood insurance program, including adoption of the maps and the changes that we recommended. And the town council unanimously voted to approve those. We had our second public hearing, or public reading, if you will. So I will be sending in to the Office of Strategic Initiatives a copy of the certification of that vote. And I wanted to again thank the board members for helping to expedite that and move it forward so that we would deadline, which we have to get everything into the state by the 15th of January. And I wanted to thank everyone for their support of that.
Thank you. If does anybody have anything else to add? If nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Ted.
I'll second.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we'll have to go through the list again. Any discussion? All right, Scott Blackstone,
Aye.
Ted Seeley,
Aye.
Mikhail Zahorik,
Aye.
Jane Ford,
Aye.
Val Shelton,
aye.
Eric Bodeman. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Have a safe holiday season, and we'll see you in January.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Happy holiday, everyone.
Take
Happy
care.
Holidays.
Take care.